A woman finally starts saving real money for her first house, and by Friday, 3 people already have opinions about it. One friend jokes that she is rich now, another gives unwanted advice about where to invest, and a cousin quietly asks for a loan. By the following week, her exciting news feels less like a win and more like a weight she has to carry around everywhere she goes. Nothing bad actually happened to her money, but her peace is already gone, and she cannot fully explain why that happened so fast. This is what happens when private life becomes public property, one small share at a time, without anyone meaning any real harm. The damage is rarely dramatic at first. It is death by 1,000 small comments, jokes, and unwanted opinions from people who mean well. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche wrote that every profound spirit needs a mask, and that line is more useful today than ever before. In the same book, he also said the noble type knows how to speak, but more importantly, knows how to keep silence. In another line, he wrote that the noble soul has reverence for itself, treating privacy as an act of self-respect, not fear. Today we are going through 8 things you should almost never casually share with people if you want to protect your own peace. Not because you are hiding something shameful, but because some parts of life need a small, trusted room, not a public stage for everyone to watch. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which categories of your life deserve silence, and why that silence is strength, not weakness. This is not about becoming secretive, distant, or cold toward the people around you. That would miss the entire point of what Nietzsche was teaching. This is about learning the difference between someone who has earned a place in your story and someone who simply happened to ask. Most people never think about this difference until after the damage is already done, which is exactly why this list matters so much. The first thing you should almost never share freely is your financial goals or your real financial situation with people around you. Money does something strange to people the moment they learn the numbers, even when those people genuinely like you and mean no harm. Nietzsche's idea that every profound spirit needs a mask fits here perfectly, because your financial life is deeper than a simple headline. Imagine someone tells a group of friends they are saving hard for a house down payment, feeling proud and hopeful about the future. Within days, dinner conversations turn into jokes about them being rich. One friend gives unsolicited investment advice, and one relative quietly asks for help. The problem is not that people are evil. It is that money instantly creates comparison, expectation, and sometimes quiet, invisible envy. Once people know what you earn or save, some start measuring themselves against you silently, without you ever asking them to do that. Others start mentally spending your future money for you, planning how you should use it before you even have it in hand. Even purely positive reactions can create pressure, because now there is an audience watching to see if the plan actually works out. The practical wisdom here is simple. Let your results speak before the numbers ever do, and protect the plan while it is still forming. Think about a second version of this same mistake. Someone mentions a small bonus at work, and suddenly a friend hints they need to borrow rent money. The bonus itself was small and temporary, but the moment it became known, it turned into an obligation instead of a private win. This is the quiet cost of financial oversharing. Your good news becomes someone else's opportunity, expectation, or measuring stick, whether you intended that or not. The second thing to guard closely is any personal struggle you are still actively living through right now, in real time. Nietzsche believed the noble soul has reverence for itself, and that self-respect is exactly what protects you during a genuinely hard season of life. When a wound is still open, talking about it publicly often produces noise, judgment, and pity, instead of real clarity or comfort. Picture someone admitting to a new acquaintance that they are falling apart after a breakup or a sudden identity crisis at work. That acquaintance now sees them through pity or curiosity, not clean respect, and that change lens rarely disappears quietly on its own. This connects to a real psychological idea called self-disclosure, revealing personal information about yourself, and it only helps closeness when trust and timing are right. When self-disclosure happens too early, or with the wrong audience, it can backfire and leave you feeling more exposed instead of more supported. Share unfinished pain only with people who have actually earned access to it, not with everyone who happens to ask a casual question. There is a difference between a person who listens to help you carry weight and a person who listens simply to collect a story. Before you speak about a struggle, ask yourself one honest question. Does this person want my healing, or do they just want the details? The third category you should protect closely is the private details of your relationship, especially during arguments or genuinely rough patches. Once outsiders know the ugly parts of a relationship, they almost never forget them, even long after the couple has fully moved on. Someone vents to friends after one bad argument, And a month later, when the couple is completely fine again, the friends still hold a grudge. The friends keep an old case file open in their minds forever, even though the relationship itself has already closed that entire chapter. Nietzsche's idea of the mask applies again here, because intimate life was never meant to be judged by an outside audience at all. If a problem genuinely belongs inside the relationship, do not turn it into a public committee decision made by everyone standing around you. Consider a second scenario: a partner forgets something important, and it gets posted online as a joke within the same hour it happened. The couple laughs about it together by the weekend, but the internet comments and screenshots still exist, permanently, long after the joke stopped mattering. The fourth thing to be careful about is your health issues, especially before you actually know what is going on with your body. The moment you mention a worrying symptom too early, people react with fear, amateur diagnosis, and constant monitoring of how you look and act. This can quietly turn you from a normal human being into what feels like a fragile headline that everyone around you is watching. Every conversation suddenly starts with concern, speculation, or someone's cousin's horror story, none of which actually helps you heal or feel calmer. Nietzsche's idea that the self needs space from other people's interpretations fits perfectly here, even without any medical language attached to it at all. Share health details with the people who genuinely need to support you, treat you, or legally know, not with everyone who simply asks out of curiosity. Think of someone who mentions an unusual test result at a family dinner, and now every relative sends them a different home remedy the next morning. None of that noise is medical help, it is simply anxiety spreading through a group chat, dressed up as concern for your well-being. The fifth category is family conflict, which spreads fast, grows extra details along the way, and quickly becomes a permanent label on your character. Someone tells coworkers about a fight with their parents or siblings, thinking it is harmless small talk in the moment they say it. Weeks later, they are still being asked about it, and their family has quietly become entertainment for the entire office to whisper about. People rarely separate a temporary conflict from your permanent character, which means one bad week can follow you around for many months. This is exactly the kind of truth Nietzsche meant when he suggested not everything belongs in the public marketplace of opinion and gossip. Protect what happens at home until there is a genuine, serious reason to bring outside people into that deeply private space you share. A second version of this happens between siblings, where one disagreement over an inheritance gets repeated at every future family gathering for years. The original conflict may have been resolved quietly at home, but the retelling keeps it alive in everyone else's memory long after it ended. The sixth thing to guard is your future plans, especially the ones still fragile, small, and only just forming inside your mind. Announcing a plan too early creates a strange feeling of progress before any real work has actually been done to earn it. If someone announces they are starting a business, moving abroad, or writing a book, and suddenly must answer for progress that does not exist yet. Now they face questions, doubt, and even quiet sabotage, long before the plan has had a real chance to grow strong roots. Nietzsche's philosophy often centers on becoming, not broadcasting, meaning what is still forming does not need public handling or public approval from anyone. The practical rule is simple: protect the seed before you try to display the tree to everyone walking past you on the street. Picture someone who announces a big career change before signing any paperwork, only to face a wave of doubt from people who were never asked. That doubt can quietly plant fear in a plan that was actually solid, simply because it was exposed to opinions too early in its life. The seventh category is your past mistakes, which people claim to forgive, but often quietly freeze you inside anyway, forever, in their memory. Someone confesses an old embarrassing mistake to new friends too quickly, hoping that raw honesty will build trust faster than it normally would. Instead, that single story becomes their identity tag, repeated and remembered long after they have genuinely grown far past that version of themselves. Nietzsche cared deeply about self-overcoming, the idea that your past is a ladder you already climbed, not a room you must live in forever. Disclose old mistakes when they genuinely serve honesty, accountability, or real intimacy, not simply because guilt is quietly pushing you to confess something. Someone might have made one bad financial decision years ago, yet new coworkers still bring it up as if it defines their judgment today. Growth becomes invisible to people who only remember the mistake, which is exactly why Nietzsche valued becoming over standing still in one fixed story. The eighth and final category is your acts of kindness, your charity, and the good things you quietly do for other people. Broadcasting every good deed slowly contaminates it with performance, turning genuine generosity into something that starts to look like social branding instead. Picture someone helping a friend financially, and then talking about it widely across their friend group, their family, and even social media. The act no longer feels generous to anyone watching. It starts to feel like image management dressed up as kindness for an audience. Nietzsche's idea of inner dignity fits here perfectly because a real deed should always be heavier and quieter than its own announcement. If the story mostly exists to make you look good in front of others, that is exactly the sign it should stay private. Compare two people who both quietly cover a stranger's grocery bill. One tells nobody, the other posts it within the hour. The first person kept the dignity of the deed intact, while the second person quietly turned kindness into a small performance for an audience. Now, this video is not telling you to trust nobody and share absolutely nothing for the rest of your entire life. Some things absolutely must be shared with a therapist, a doctor, a lawyer, a spouse, or a genuinely trusted mentor who has earned it. Abuse, medical emergencies, legal danger, and severe mental distress are never situations for proud, stubborn silence, under any circumstance whatsoever. The real point of this entire video is discernment, not suppression, and understanding that difference changes almost everything about how you live day to day. Not everyone needs full access to your life simply because they asked a question or seemed curious in the moment you were talking. Privacy is not deception, it is emotional architecture, the invisible structure that protects your inner world from unnecessary noise and outside judgment. Some people will not support your healing at all. They will simply consume your story like entertainment and move on to the next one. The more unfinished a process still is inside you, the smaller and more trusted your audience should be around that specific part of your life. There is a psychological term for oversharing that feels bonding but actually increases distress, called co-rumination, and it quietly traps people in place. Co-rumination happens when two people repeatedly discuss the same problem over and over, feeling closer in the moment while nothing actually gets resolved. There is another term called emotional labor, which describes what happens when your private pain becomes something other people manage, judge, or even weaponize. Emotional labor can also mean you end up managing everyone else's reaction to your life instead of simply living your own life in peace. And once people hear a private detail about you, they often reinterpret everything else about you through that single detail from that point forward. This is called impression management, and it can quietly change how people trust you, pity you, compete with you, or even avoid you entirely. There is also a term called boundary regulation, which simply means deciding what to reveal, to whom, and at what moment in time. People with strong boundary regulation are not cold or secretive by nature. They are simply intentional about who earns access to their inner life. Weak boundary regulation feels like relief in the moment because sharing releases pressure quickly, but it often costs peace later once the story spreads. Think about it this way: every time you share something private, you are handing someone else a small piece of authorship over your own story. Some people will treat that piece with care, and some people will use it however serves them without ever meaning to be cruel about it. This is not paranoia, it is simply respecting how information actually moves through friend groups, families, and workplaces once it leaves your mouth. There is one more Nietzsche line worth knowing: that silence kept becomes poisonous, but this does not mean tell everybody everything you feel. It means real truth needs a real place to go: a journal, a trusted friend, prayer, or therapy, not a random social audience. So here is the closing truth Nietzsche was pointing toward long before modern life made oversharing this easy and this constantly tempting for everyone. Silence is not about acting superior, being cold, or performing mystery in front of other people just to seem interesting or important. Silence is about refusing to let every single part of your life become public property for anyone who happens to be watching that day. Your peace disappears the exact moment your private life becomes everyone else's casual conversation over coffee, at dinner, or inside a group chat. Silence protects your peace, not your power, and once you truly understand that difference, you will guard your daily life very differently from now on. None of this means you stop trusting people. It means you finally start choosing who deserves that trust in the first place. A mask is not a lie, it is a boundary, and boundaries are what let your real, unfinished life keep growing quietly underneath. The people worth keeping close will never need the mask removed for you to feel safe, because they were never the audience you needed to fear. If this idea changed how you see your own conversations this week, there is another video on this channel you genuinely need to watch next. It goes deeper into how Nietzsche's ideas about masks and self-mastery apply directly to the people you let closest to your inner life. Watch that one next, because understanding the mask is only half of this lesson, and the other half changes exactly how you choose people. Before you go, run a quick test on your own week. Count how many private details you shared with people who never really needed to know. You might be surprised how many small pieces of your inner life are sitting in other people's hands right now without you even noticing it. That is not a reason for panic, it is simply information, and information is the first step toward building a quieter, steadier kind of life. Start small this week. Choose one category from this list, and practice holding it back the next time you feel the urge to share it. Notice how it feels to carry something privately instead of releasing it immediately. That feeling itself is the beginning of real inner strength. Nietzsche never asked anyone to become distant or unreachable. He asked people to stop handing their depth to an audience that never earned it. That single shift, choosing your audience instead of accepting whoever happens to be listening, may be the quietest form of power you ever build. It will not feel dramatic at first. Most real change never does, but over months, it reshapes how calm your daily life actually feels. Guard what deserves guarding, share what deserves sharing, and let the difference between those two choices become your version of the mask Nietzsche described.